It was good, everybody. Today we're going to be breaking down every single move from this year's NBA trade deadline. Some teams cooked, some teams panicked, and might have set their franchise back for a long, long time. Today I'm going to be grading every move from A to F. No mercy, let's get into it. Now, this Bleacher Report article I'm looking at to fully detail the trades. They have their own personal grades for the trade, but that's not what I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be making my own personal grades for the trade and giving my own personal opinions, and as well I'll have this Bleacher Report article up in the background so you guys can check that out too. Alright, the first move is Anthony Davis to the Washington Wizards. All the details of the trade are detailed here. It's Marvin Bagley, Malachi Branham, AJ Johnson, Chris Middleton, and all those picks for Anthony Davis and a few other players. You can read it here, so I'm not going to get into the details for every single trade because a lot of you guys do know what's going on, but they are detailed here in the article if you don't want to pause and see what the full details of the trade are if you don't know. But for my personal opinion on this trade, I absolutely love this trade for the Washington Wizards. It's a very low risk, high reward move from the Wizards. They already went all in on trying to become a better team by making a move earlier on the season for Trae Young, and they're doubling down on trying to make the playoffs next year by acquiring Anthony Davis, and I absolutely love that move for the Wizards. I think they have a very promising young core, and I think Anthony Davis is the perfect player to pair alongside Alex Sarr and also enhance his development. For the Wizards, I'm going to give this trade, I'm going to give it an A-, bro. I think it's a really good trade. They didn't give up any crazy young pieces. Like, the best young piece they gave up was AJ Johnson, and then OKC's first-round pick. That's not going to turn into anything. Yeah, I really like this trade for the Washington Wizards. Now, for the Dallas Mavericks, I've seen a lot of things. It's kind of funny because you look in the grand scheme of things, and it's like, oh, they traded Luka Doncic for 400-year-old Chris Middleton, and not a lot else. And when you look at it from that landscape, it's not that great. But I think this trade isn't as bad for the Mavs as people are making it out to be. I think the Mavs had to wipe their hands clean of the Anthony Davis trade. Like, Nico Harrison's off the team. I think it's time just wipe your hands of that mess, move on, and try to build around Cooper Flagg. And I really like this move for the Mavs. Just the fact that they made a move to get rid of Anthony Davis, I think that's respectable. They didn't get the greatest return, but I am intrigued to see how players like AJ Johnson do play. I'm going to give this trade for the Mavericks a C-. Next, we got another one of the really big trades. We have James Harden and Darius Garland swap. Now, this trade sort of just came out of nowhere. We saw reports about 24 hours before the trade actually happened, and then it just happened. Apparently, James Harden requested a trade, which does make me think a little bit different about the trade. Los Angeles probably had a lot less leverage than people are making it out to be. But I actually do really like this trade from both perspectives. Now, here they're saying Cavs D+, Clippers A. I disagree completely. I understand the sentiment that Darius Garland is 26 years old, but he's also gone through so many injuries concerns. And even though James Harden isn't the best playoff performer, he's reliable. You know he's going to show up. And I actually don't hate the fit between him and Donovan Mitchell, especially when you have like an Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen in the backcourt. And also they made moves earlier that we'll also talk about to acquire someone like Keon Ellis, who even just enhances that backcourt even more. And I just think it's a really good move from the Cavs. I'm going to give this a B+ from the Cavs. Now, it does get a little messy if James Harden does continue to keep requesting out and keep deciding to request out and moving teams. But I do think this is a good move for the Cavs because it convinces Donovan Mitchell to stay. There were a lot of rumors that Donovan Mitchell wasn't going to resign, and he highly influenced this move. And if this is a move that Donovan Mitchell wanted the Cavs to make, I think it is the right move for the Cavs to make. Because retaining Donovan Mitchell should be the Cleveland Cavaliers' #1 priority. Now, as for the Los Angeles Clippers, I actually really like this move. There's only one thing about this move that does worry me. So, I love the idea of you have James Harden request out like a day before the deadline is over, and you're still able to get in return a 26-year-old two-time All-Star that still has yet to enter his prime. Now, the injury concerns are there, and that's my biggest concern, the injury concerns and the lack of Darius Garland being able to play this season, which worries me as just an NBA fan in general because I don't want the Oklahoma City Thunder to end up with a top pick. But I do like this move from the perspective of trying to enhance the Clippers' future. They accepted that they probably weren't going to make the greatest run in the postseason, so they capitalized on the value that James Harden does have and bring in a young all-star that could be something in the future for the Cavs. And I also really like this move more for the Cavs. I really like this move more for the Cavs with the sentiment that they did end up trading Ivica Zubac. If they just moved on from Harden, I think this move would have been a little bit worse, but now that they're fully committing in a direction, I really like that. I do wish that they would have traded Kawhi, but I do think that part of the reason why Kawhi was not traded is because there's still that pending investigation, and I don't know how good Kawhi's value is going to be when there is a potential suspension for him coming up. For the Clippers, I'm also going to give this trade a B+. Now, Jaren Jackson Jr. to the Utah Jazz. This is, at least for me, the biggest trade that happened this deadline because I'm a Utah Jazz fan. Now, in this trade, we acquired Jaren Jackson Jr. and Vince Williams Jr., who's actually a very important piece, that at least I think so in this trade, and we gave up basically Walter Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendricks, and 3 first-round picks. Now, that Lakers first-round pick, I don't think is going to be that good. The Lakers have Luka Doncic, and I'm sure they're going to figure something out. They're at least going to be in the postseason. That pick's I'm not too worried about. Now, you have the 2027 first-round pick, most favorable of, I think, Utah, Cleveland, and Minnesota. That pick, I don't think is going to be too great either. Cleveland and Minnesota, we know are going to be good, and with the Jazz making win-now moves, I still don't think that pick is going to be too great. The Phoenix 2031 pick is what scares me, but I appreciate the sentiment that we can't be bad for this long. That pick is so far in the future. Let's prioritize trying to win now. We'll tank this season, try and get an AJ DeBansta, Cameron Boozer, Darren Peterson, Caleb Wilson in the door. And then with that young core, with Keontae, with Walker Kessler, and then we got Lowry and Jaren, we can try and make a playoff push. I like this move for the Jazz. I initially didn't like it as a Jazz fan because I really do like Walter Clayton Jr. and Taylor Hendricks, and I do believe that they can be something in this league. But I do think it's a good trade overall for the Jazz. I would give it a B+ for them. Now for the Grizzlies, I actually really like this trade from the Grizzlies as well. Now, my initial grade for this trade from the Grizzlies would be an A. I think they got a great return for Jaren. They got some first-round picks, some of which could be very valuable, and they got some intriguing young pieces. The one thing that makes me lower my my grade is that they didn't end up moving Ja Morant. Now, I understand that they didn't move Ja Morant because they just weren't getting any offers that they liked, but I would have liked if Ja Morant was moved and they were able to fully commit. But still, acquiring 7 first-round picks for Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane is a home run by the Grizzlies front office. I'm just going to give them a A-. I still can't deduct their grade too much. I think it's a great trade from them. Now, Kristaps Porzingis to Golden State. This is a very interesting trade, and this is one that I still don't completely have a solid opinion about. I think Kristaps Porzingis is the absolute perfect fit along Steph Curry. But the biggest question is his health. Now, I also think this trade would have a lot different sentiment if Jimmy Butler was still healthy, because I think if Jimmy Butler was healthy, then this team with Kristaps Porzingis, if he could be healthy as well, does have a chance to make some real noise. But without Jimmy Butler being healthy, with Kristaps Porzingis likely not going to play much this season, I don't know quite how to feel about this trade for the Warriors. But also, they only gave up Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, I hear a lot of people hating on the Warriors for making this move, but Jonathan Kuminga, they had to get rid of him. There was no reason keeping him on the team. Steve Kerr wasn't playing him. They had a negative relationship. For the Warriors, I'm going to give this trade a B. I think it has a very high upside to work out, and I don't think they're losing out on too much if it doesn't work out. Now for the Hawks, I'm going to give this trade also a B. I think this trade's not necessarily a win-win, but it's like a meh kind of trade. I think Jonathan Kuminga does have the potential to become something for the Hawks, but I don't know. You're banking fully on potential there, but like Kuminga hasn't been great this season. Buddy Hield hasn't been great, but you're banking on the potential of Jonathan Kuminga and hoping that can become something. I don't think Kristaps Porzingis had a future in Atlanta, so I think this is still a good move from Atlanta's perspective. I'm going to give them a B as well. Now, this move, Ivica Zubac to the Indiana Pacers. Interestingly enough about this move, something I did learn is that the Pacers were repetitively trying to acquire Walker Kessler for a similar package, and the Jazz denied. I love Walker Kessler, and I wouldn't want to trade Walker Kessler, but if this is the package that was being offered, I wouldn't have been opposed to us trading him. The Pacers received Ivica Zubac and Kobe Brown, and the Clippers received Isaiah Jackson, Benedict Mathurin, a 2026 first-round pick projected. It's a weird protection. If it lands between 5 and 9, then they get the pick. Otherwise, it turns into an unprotected 2031 first-round pick. And then they get a 2029 first-round pick as well. I absolutely love this trade from the Clippers. I think they got probably the best return that they could for Zubac. And I'm going to give this trade a full on A+ for the Clippers. I think this is a really good move from them. I think Zubac is a great player too, but I think a lot of his value was enhanced by having James Harden. That's also why I do like this move from Indiana. I think they gave up a little bit too much, but having a good center, like having Tyrese Halliburton around Ivica Zubac, the lob connections that are going to be going on there, the defense that he provides alongside Pascal Siakam, I think that's a very, very good acquisition for the Indiana Pacers. I just think they gave up a little too much. I'm gonna give them a C-. I absolutely love the fit of Zubac on the Pacers, but I think they just gave up a little bit too much for my liking. Now this trade, Nikola Vucevic to Boston, Anthony Simons to Chicago, like a second round pick swaps or something involved. I'm just gonna be looking at the two players. I don't care too much about second round picks. For the Boston Celtics, I actually like this move. Now, there is a lot of Vucevic hate. I think Vucevic both raises the floor and the ceiling of this team. Now, it's true Vucevic is a defensive liability, but the value he provides on offense is very underrated. And I think surrounding him with pieces like Derek White, Jordan Walsh, you got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum when he comes back, that's a good defensive squad. And having an offensive center who can also facilitate the ball, I think is going to be really good around Boston. And they didn't give up. It's not like a high risk. They gave up Anthony Simons. I mean, who has been playing well for them, but realistically, he doesn't have a long-term future on this team. I'm going to give this trade a B+ for the Celtics. Now, for the Bulls, I don't know. I think they waited too long to trade Vucevic. Anthony Simons isn't a bad return for Vucevic. I think my biggest problem with this trade is that the Bulls just have way too many guards on their roster, and they didn't make enough trades to move them out. Like we saw Kobe and Ayo get moved up, but they still brought in so many guards. I just don't know how Anthony Simons is going to fit in this Bulls roster. But I think Vucevic did have to get traded. I'm going to give this trade just a B for the Bulls. Now, Trae Young to the Wizards. This is a trade that happened way earlier on the season. I think I've already talked about it a few times, so I'm not going to go too in-depth with it. But for the Hawks, they wanted to trade Trae Young. They got basically salary filler in return. I think Trae Young has more value than that. He hasn't been playing great, but he's one of the best playmakers in the NBA. He can create offense for himself, and while his value is down right now, I feel like you could have got something better, or I don't even know. I just really didn't like this trade from the Hawks' perspective. I'm going to give it a D. From the Wizards, A-, A+, actually. A+, because you're giving up nothing. You gave up salary. Corey Kispert was like the 7th man in the rotation. He's been there for his whole career, but he's a role player at best. CJ McCollum was going to get moved in a salary filler move. Anyways, I absolutely love this trade for the Washington Wizards. I think Trae Young can help Alex Sarr's development a lot, and I think this is a great move from the Wizards. Oh my gosh, Jared McCain to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Wow, I can't believe Philly gave up on Jared McCain so early. He was easily the favorite for Rookie of the Year until he got hurt. And you're telling me you traded him for a first-round pick that's probably going to be like the 26th overall pick, 25th overall pick. It's Houston's pick next year. That pick is not going to be good. The Rockets are a fantastic team. And you traded Jared McCain, who, albeit hasn't been too great this season, but he's been showing an improvement, and he was absolutely phenomenal in his rookie season before he got hurt. I hate this move from the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm going to give it a D-. I think they gave up on Jared McCain way too early, and I think they're going to end up regretting it. From the Thunder, Sam Presti can't keep getting away with it, man. Like, bringing talent in the door for the 26th overall pick. They have so many picks. If Jared McCain doesn't end up turning into what I think Jared McCain could be, it's still not a big loss. You lost the 26th overall pick. Not a big deal at all. It recently came out that the Hornets were involved in this trade. Ousmane Dieng, Mason Plumlee. There's a lot of confusion when I saw Ousmane Dieng getting traded to, what was it? He got traded to the Bulls from the Hornets, and I'm like, he's not even on the Hornets. But this trade is how Ousmane Dieng did get to the Hornets, and I'm not going to really grade it for the Hornets. They ended up moving him to the Bulls. I don't think it's crazy, but Thunder, I'm going to give this trade an A plus. Sixers D minus. I really don't like it. Maybe if it was a better first round pick, but it's not. Jose Alvarado to the New York Knicks. The Pelicans get Dalen Terry and 2 second-round picks, and the Knicks receive Jose Alvarado. Now, for the Knicks, I absolutely love this trade. Jose Alvarado is an impact player who can give you meaningful playoff minutes and bring high energy, which is exactly what the Knicks need. I give this trade a B plus, A minus for the Knicks. They didn't give up a lot, and I really like this trade from them. Now, the Pelicans acquired Dalen Terry in 2 seconds. I actually don't hate this trade from their perspective too. Dalen Terry's still young. I don't really have too much of an opinion on Dalen Terry. Moving on from someone that's a little bit older, probably doesn't fit your timeline, and getting in someone younger and 2 second-round picks, I don't hate that trade from the Pelicans. I'm going to give them a B. I really wish the Pelicans made some more moves this offseason, though. Okay, this trade. Luke Kennard to the Lakers and for Gabe Vincent and a 2032 second round. What this move is telling me is that Atlanta isn't really that serious about competing this season because Luke Kennard, one of the best three-point shooters in the league, he provides tremendous value, and they moved him for a player that likely shouldn't be in the league anymore and a second-round pick years and years in the future. I absolutely love this trade for the Lakers. Now, while I don't think Luke Kennard to the Lakers makes them a title contender, I do think the spacing is really important, especially having it along Luka, LeBron, DeAndre Ayton. I think this move does help them a lot. I'm going to give it an A plus for the Lakers. They gave nothing up and gotten a really good player. And for the Hawks, I'm going to give it a D. This is actually the first time where my grades completely match up. I don't really like this move from the Hawks' perspective. I just don't understand it. Now, Ayo DeSumo to the Minnesota Timberwolves. This trade. Listen, I am not that high on Rob Dillingham. So many people are really high on Rob Dillingham. I am not as high on Rob Dillingham as most people are. But I still think it's a little crazy to trade away Rob Dillingham after you traded 2 first-round picks away to get him, and you trade him for a player that's good, not great. Does Ayo DeSumo fix the point guard problem in Minnesota? I don't think so. I think he's a good player. I think he fits alongside the team. But I don't think this move changes the landscape of how Minnesota can play out. I think this move raises their floor a little bit, maybe raises their ceiling a little bit, but I think they did lose on a lot of value by giving up Rob Dillingham, and I think they could have capitalized more. Also, acquiring Rob Dillingham for the Bulls, I would like if it was any other team, but since it's the Bulls, they have so many guards already, and I just don't know where Rob Dillingham fits in the mix of all the guards in Chicago right now. For the Bulls, I'm going to give this trade a B+, and for the Timberwolves, I'm going to give it a B. Kobe White to Charlotte and Colin Sexton to Chicago. I think it's interesting that the Bulls traded Kobe White for another guard, but they did net Ousmane Dieng in this deal, who I think is an intriguing young prospect. I don't think he had a chance to flourish on the Thunder just because of how many good players are there. I think he could become something on the Bulls. They netted 3 second-round picks. Colin Sexton, he hasn't been super great in Charlotte, but I think he's one of the more underrated players in the league. In Utah, he was absolutely incredible. I loved him there, and I think his impact on both sides of the floor is really underrated. I do like this trade for the Bulls. They did have to move Kobe White. He didn't want to stay there, and he was an expiring contract. And I think if this is the value they could get for them, I think it's a good move. I'm going to give it an A for the Bulls. Now, as for the Charlotte Hornets, I think this is them saying Kobe White is filling in a 6-man role, and I think that's a good role for Kobe White. You have LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Concanapole as like the forefront 3 of this team, and then you have Kobe White who can give you 20 off the bench any given night. I like this move for the Hornets, and I think the Hornets could be a real competent team even this season. I think the Hornets can make a run for the play-in, and I don't know. We'll see how that goes. For the Hornets, I'm going to give it an A-. Now, Xavier Tillman to the Charlotte Hornets. I really don't have an opinion on this trade. I mean, Celtics get out of the luxury tax, so I guess, hey, it's a good move for them. They get out of the luxury tax. The Hornets just get Xavier Tillman, who's a good player, not a great player. Their center depth isn't crazy in Charlotte, so they get another piece in. It's not a crazy piece, but it's all right. I'll just give it a C for the Hornets. this move doesn't move me in either direction. Tyus Jones to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, if this was Tyus Jones, Memphis Tyus Jones that had me believing he's the best backup point guard in the league, I would love this trade for the Mavs. But Tyus Jones has been so incredibly horrible this year. And with the Mavs moving on from Anthony Davis, it's clear they're not trying to compete. So why are you moving a younger guard with some promise, Malachi Branham, for Tyus Jones, who hasn't been great this year and he's older? I don't get this move from the Mavs. I'm going to give it a C. And for the Hornets, I like this move from them. Malachi Branham has potential to be something in this league, and Tyus Jones just doesn't fit great with the Hornets. So I'm going to give it a B for them. It's not a crazy move in either direction that really moves me. Gershon Yabusele to the Bulls for Dalen Terry. I'm not sure if this does something money-wise for Chicago, because otherwise I don't understand why they would do it. Dalen Terry's a younger piece. As I talked about before, I don't know too much about him, but he's a good defender. And Gershon has just been straight up horrible this year. I loved him last year in Philadelphia, and maybe the Bulls can try and recoup his value a little bit, and maybe that's the sentiment behind this, but he really has been awful for the New York Knicks. But I think the Knicks, Dalen Terry, just another body to have. I think it's a good trade for them. I'm going to give it a B+. They didn't really give up anything. And for the Bulls, I'm going to give it a C+, because even though you're bringing in it, I think you're getting the worst player in the deal, you can maybe recoup his value and get something back for him later. Now, another trade that I did touch on earlier, DeAndre Hunter to Sacramento, Keon Ellis to Cleveland. I really love this trade for the Cavs. I really like the initial move to bring in DeAndre Hunter, and he really wasn't great in Cleveland. And I'm also basing some of this off of Cleveland played last night, and Keon Ellis played, Dennis Schroeder played, and the vibes look immaculate. They looked like perfect fits alongside each other. And shout out to Dennis Schroeder for going to all these teams, and he's happy wherever he's go. He's a real saint, you know. I like Dennis Schroeder. I have a lot of respect for him. But I think this is a really good trade from the Cavs' perspective. I'm going to give it an A. It also clears. I also believe it clears up some money for them as well. As for the Kings, DeAndre Hunter, maybe you can recoup his value a little bit, turn him into something. Don't really have a crazy opinion about this. And then the Bulls just got some second-round picks for free. So it's an A+ for the Bulls. For the Sacramento Kings, I'm going to give it a C. Now, this is another Chicago move for a guard that I would like a lot more if there weren't so many bodies there. The Bulls received Mike Conley, who was later traded to Charlotte. So the Chicago Bulls essentially give up nothing. Kevin Huerter, Dario Saric. Kevin Huerter hasn't been great this year, and Dario Saric is really just a salary throw-in. For Jaden Ivey, who averaged 17 points a game a year ago, he has had a bad injury history, but he's still young, still a promising prospect. He's still a really good spot-up shooter, and before his injury, he was really good at getting downhill, getting to his spots. I love this trade for the Bulls, even considering that they have so many guards on this team. I'm going to give it an A for the Bulls. I really wanted the Pistons to get a shooter, but Kevin Huerter really wasn't who I had in mind. He hasn't been great this season. They do get in that first-round pick swap, which I do like. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent in this trade for Detroit. I think Jaden Ivey, you could have maybe got a little bit more for. I think maybe he could have been a piece to try and acquire, maybe not a superstar, but a better player, bring in a Michael Porter Jr. or someone like that. I would have really loved to see Detroit make a bigger move, bigger splash in at the trade deadline, considering how wide open the East is. And for the Timberwolves, they created a trade exception to try and get Giannis, and they didn't get Giannis. So, yeah, I'm going to give it an F for them. It didn't end up working out for them. Lonzo Ball to the Utah Jazz. We gave up Jacques Landale, who is a good backup center, obviously never played for him. We acquired him earlier. We acquired Lonzo Ball, who we ended up waiving, and then netted 2 second-round picks as well. Jazz, I'm going to give it an A+. We just got 2 second-round picks for free. Cavs free up some space. I'm going to give it a B- from them. This move does free up a lot of money for the Cavs, which is good, but they also obviously are having to give up draft capital to move Lonzo Ball. And then the Atlanta Hawks, they're getting a good backup center, Jacques Landale, and giving up essentially nothing. So I think it's an A for the Hawks. A for the Hawks, A for the Jazz, B- for the Cavs. Trace Jackson Davis to the Raptors. I don't understand this trade from the Warriors' perspective. I mean, you are already lacking at center depth, and Trayce Jackson-Davis isn't having the greatest year, but he's still a great player, second round still, and you're trading him for another second round pick next year. Maybe that can turn into something, and maybe this trade doesn't look so bad when depending on who they end up drafting with that pick. But I think it's kind of a man trade for the Warriors. As for the Raptors, I really like it, and I think it's a great trade for the Raptors. It's a good backup center they can have, and I think it can make I think the Raptors are a better team after this trade. Is essentially what I'm trying to say. For the Raptors, nothing crazy. I'm going to give it a B+. Warriors, I'm going to give it a B-. Oh my goodness. This trade hurts me. This trade pains me. I thought I knew a lot about the NBA, but I'm still really confused. How did Chris Paul get traded from the Clippers after he got waived? I still have zero idea how that happened, but whatever. The Raptors net in Chris Paul and the salary dump Ochai, and Chris Paul is probably going to get bought out, waived, or whatever. I love this trade for the Nets. I think it's an A for the Nets. I love Ochai. He was my Jazz man. I think he's having a down year, but I still think he has something left in the tank. And they also net in a second-round pick. And for the Clippers and the Raptors, I'm kind of indifferent. I'm going to give it an A for the Nets, and I'm just going to give it a C for those other two teams. Now, this is how Tyus Jones ended up on the Charlotte Hornets, because obviously he was on the Orlando Magic before. It was Tyus Jones and 2 second-round picks for a player exception. Now, I think this is a great move for the Charlotte Hornets, considering they just netted 2 second-round picks and were able to flip Tyus Jones for at least, not an intriguing young piece necessarily, but someone that could potentially turn into something in Malachi Branham. I'm going to give it an A- for the Hornets. You really didn't do anything. Like, this is a low-risk, meh-reward kind of trade. It's kind of one of those nothing trades. And for the Magic, just sort of just clearing up money, giving up some picks. I'll give it a C for the Magic. Now for this one, the Jazz free up some money, and Oklahoma City gets the draft rights to Balsa Koprovic. I have zero opinion on this trade because until the trade happened, I had zero idea who Balsa Koprovic is. So I don't think I'm necessarily qualified, but if the Jazz free up some money for someone that they weren't going to bring on the team, I think that's a good deal. And if Oklahoma City is intrigued, I think it's a good deal. I'll say it's a win-win for both teams. Josh Minott to the Brooklyn Nets. I think Josh Minott has really revamped his value in Boston this year. I think he's been pretty good. And bringing him onto the Nets, I think, is a great move. I mean, it's not going to move the needle or anything, but I think it's a still good move, especially when you're only giving up a player exception. The Celtics, I'll give it a C. They freed up some money. Good for them. And the Nets, they brought in a young piece that could potentially become something. I'll give it an A- for them. This is essentially just Hunter Tyson, who is realistically a 15th, 14th man on the roster, and I don't know if he is ever going to become something in this league. And then swapping second-round picks. This is another nothing trade. I don't really have an opinion. The Chicago Bulls get Nick Richards, and I actually forgot about this deal. I was talking about Ousmane Dieng being on the Bulls, and I forgot they actually moved him this deal. But for the Bulls, they bring in a center. They're going to need a center after losing Vucevic, so now they have Jalen Smith and Nick Richards. I think Nick Richards is a cool piece. I would have liked to see Ousmane Dieng stay. I'm going to give it a B for the Bulls. As for the Bucks, they gave up Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey, who are two decent players, and you're getting someone in Ousmane Dieng and Nazil Hayes-Davis, who are 2 younger pieces who could maybe be something. I do like this trade for the Bucks. I just wish it came with a Giannis move because it would have made a little more sense. I'll give it a B for the Bucks as well. And as for the Phoenix Suns, they move Nigel Hayes-Davis and Nick Richards for Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey. I think Nick Richards was decently good for the Suns this year, and I don't quite understand the sentiment behind trading for Cole Anthony when you have Colin Gillespie, but nonetheless, I still think Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey are good players. I'll give it a C for the Suns. I don't think it's anything crazy. Now, another trade, kind of a nothing trade. Eric Gordon and a second-round pick swap for the draft rights to somebody who I don't know who that is. I think it's a good trade for the Sixers. They're dumping salary and giving up essentially nothing for the Grizzlies. They get a second-round pick swap, I guess. Like this is kind of a nothing trade. Good trade for the Sixers, mid trade for the Grizzlies. I'm not going to even give this a grade. And Chris Boucher to the Utah Jazz. Jazz just bringing Chris Boucher and a second-round pick for a player exception. So the Jazz just bringing on a bunch of. I think the Jazz killed this deadline, brought in a bunch of second-round picks and giving up essentially nothing. And Chris Boucher is a good player. I don't know if he's going to stay on the roster. I think there's a good chance he gets waived and picked up by somebody else. But nonetheless, I think it's a good trade for the Jazz, just getting a second-round pick for nothing. And the Celtics, I guess, they freed up some salary. And I actually think these grades here are fine. And last trade, which actually happened a while ago, Duop Reef and 2 second-round picks for Vit Krejci. The grades here are kind of confusing. I think Vit Krejci is good, but to say an A+ for the Blazers to give up 2 second-round picks and Duop Reef, he's only been in the league for a few years, but he's a really older player. He's an older player with less years in the league, so I don't think he's going to become anything crazy. Those 2 second-round picks potentially could turn into something. And Vit Krejci is a rotational piece in the NBA. I think this is a good trade from the Blazers. You get someone who can give you instant impact now. I'm going to give it a B+ for the Blazers. As for the Hawks, you get 2 second-round picks for somebody that was playing for you, but you're not necessarily competing this season, at least from the moves they made at the deadline. Tell me they're not going all in. And I don't know. I'll give this a C for the Hawks. And that's all the trades this deadline. I'm also going to make a video on my 2K channel, Swish 2K. All the trades. We're going to be simulating all the trades across the NBA, and I'd love if you guys check that out when it comes out. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.